Spine-type parts have a variety of different control options, allowing you to animate them in different ways. By default, they are just fully FK, so you can grab the FK control items here and just rotate them around as you like. Very simple and straightforward. Let's see next the handles option. So we convert here to handles. You'll see that in this case I created 3 handle control points across 9 spine joints, and these have automatically distributed for me. So you see that the first 3 spine joints there are now controlled by this first handle, the second 3 by the second handle, and the last 3 by the third handle. And of course these rotations distribute over the joints that are under the control of a given handle, allowing you to perform your animation in this fashion. When you are in this mode, handles mode, you'll note of course that trying to grab any of the FK controllers does nothing. They cannot be manipulated, but what you can of course do is to expose the offsets, and you can create offsetting at any particular joint or series of joints that you like in the spine, giving you the ability to sort of have a blended handle FK system if you so choose, or create specific bend at specific points outside of the rotation that is being driven by the handle. If we look at the spline motion option that we have here, then of course we have spline nulls that are created, which gives us the standard Lightwave spline control, and we can of course just manipulate the spine in this nice easy way like this. One thing to notice on the spline system for spines, which is the same as other spline systems, is that you get this end point created here. The reason for this is if your spine should happen to push its way somehow beyond, as you can see when it gets to the end of the spline, it will just turn back and point back on itself. This of course allows you to push out the extra length there as you desire. Otherwise, all of your animation, including twist and bank rotation, will come from these spline control items here. This will be more obvious in this instance if I just increase the bone size there so that you can see them clearly twisting at the point where the spline controller is around, allowing you to get nice clean distributed twist down the length of the spine. The other option that we have is IK. This is a special sort of hybrid IK. Doesn't work quite as you might expect it to, the reason being that doing standard IK on multiple link chains like this creates very flippy, snappy, unpredictable systems. The way that this works is you have the IK goal at the tip here, and as you move it, you'll notice that the spine will lean to point towards it, but it will not bend. To bend it, you simply rotate the IK goal, and so in this manner you can position and flip it around quite predictably without getting too horrible results. If you start to go way beyond, it will eventually crack back on itself. This is simply a limitation of how far rotations can be pushed, but you should find that it will serve in the areas where you would most commonly want to use this type of control, perhaps on character spines or necks. Things like tails and tentacles are often better served by systems like the spline or the handle systems. What you can also note is that, again, even though this gives a smooth distribution of the bending here, and of course also of the twist, since it will do a distributed twist when turning on bank, you can once again expose the offsets in the spine, and this will allow you to get specific harsh bending at a given point should you wish to offset a single joint or number of joints in the chain, and the whole thing will still function like this. An interesting point of note with this system, the IK system, is the way that it behaves depending on parenting. We saw of course in the parenting video the way that you can put different items at different places in the hierarchy or parent them under different items, and this will in some cases alter the way that a control system behaves. There is a special case of this that exists on spines. Notice that by default the IK goal for this spine is a child of the main system itself. So here I'm moving the main root that the spine is an immediate child of. If we look here in the scene editor, then we can see here we have the spine IK goal, and its parent is the spine 1 root item, which is of course the absolute base root item for the spine system. Something different happens if we manually parent this out. So I'm going to take the spine 1 IKG, and I'm just going to make it a child of the IK controls null here. Immediately nothing will happen because Rhiggit has to set this up. At present all you have is the fact that when moving the main root you get this behaviour, which is interesting and perhaps what more we would tend to think of it as wanting to behave. However, if we just nip in and out of rig fit, or alternatively I could have just toggled rig on off here in the animation toolbox, we'll see that whilst we still get this action when moving the main root here, if I start to turn the main root, we see that the spine now flexes to try and reach its goal. This gives us really nice sort of two-directional or bi-directional spine systems, which can create some very nice and natural motions when used in this way. One of the most common places you might wish to use something like this is with quadrupeds, and in fact it is provided for in the default quadruped presets that we have here. So if I just create one of those quickly, and I'll select part of the spine here and edit to throw it into IK mode. Of course by default it would be in FK mode, and we then throw the thing into actual rig mode. Then what we see we get is of course this IK hip end here with the root at the chest position, but of course as we move and dodge that around we get this flow through effect that happens on our quadruped spine, and of course we are able to bend and flex the whole body like this just by manipulating the main root, and we see that we get this lovely flexy system where the whole body responds very naturally. And of course we can still dodge around his hind quarter like this, and we can create added rotation from the IK goal there if we desire. That is because by default in the quadruped preset here the spine has been parented out away from the main root, or rather it has been parented out from under the spine's root item. The result has been to create a rig that is really fast and flexible to animate with, and is very easy to create really natural motion out of. The last thing to take note of in the control systems of spines is another special case that exists just for necks, any spine that is a neck type of item here. Commonly on the end of a neck you will have a head, and one of the control systems that is allowed for in a head is a world space head. Now when using a world space head, of course, the head stays in a constant orientation irrespective of what is happening further up in the body. And that's great, but when your body turns side to side or around its axis in the case of either a quadruped or a humanoid biped, you of course then have this static neck underneath it which is not in world space. Rhiggit allows for this, and it recognises when you have a head attached at the end of a neck with nothing else in between, and the head exists in world space. Again, I'm going to blow up the size of the bones here just to make this a bit clearer, and we can see that what happens in the case of this neck is that when my head rotates on its bank, we can see that the neck bones here are also rotating on their bank to match to the head. Furthermore, you'll see that this is also bidirectional, so if we start to twist the body there, the neck is again twisting itself to try and match the head. This means that when you are working with a world space head that is stuck on the end of a neck, and you are either animating the head itself or animating the body and the head is floating around, you do not have to keep coming back to the neck, performing counter animation and trying to time the animation of that neck into the movement of the head to make it look natural. The rig will do it automatically for you. Notice, of course, this only occurs on the bank channel. The pitch and heading channels of the neck are still free. You may also, once again, expose the offsets, and you will have bank control over those. So if you do need to do some slightly different posing into the overall bank of the neck beyond what is being applied automatically, you still have control over that. Notice as well that this works for the different systems on the neck. So if, for instance, here I were using the neck in handles mode, then you can see that as my head is turning on bank, the actual handle controller is now being turned on bank, so that the neck still does the automatic counter animation to make it match up with the head, while still giving me heading and pitch control here on the handle itself. And of course, still keeping that extra control from the offsets should I desire them. So those are spines, the different control options that you have available for them, and how they can serve you in animation, in creating the exact kind of system that you need in the exact part of the rig that you need for a given type of character or a given type of shot or sequence.